Tonight, the Bonnies face Virginia in the quarterfinals of the NIT. Analysis and predictions for tonight's game. Plus, controversy about where the Bonnies quarterfinal game is taking place tonight. And highlights from last weekend's showdown with Oklahoma. We have it all. This is BBN NIT Style. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of BBN. I'm here today with the vet himself from the Olean Times-Herald, JP Butler, as always, and of course, Anthony Goss, an SBU-TV sports reporter for us. We got a lot to talk about today, starting with the NIT bracket as it's shown right now. You take a look at it right now, you got Vanderbilt and Xavier going to be facing off, and that's going to be at Xavier. You take a look at the bracket on your screen, you see every team is seeded right now except for the Bonnies matchup, Virginia and St. Bonaventure. Everybody else, the only one seed remaining in that bracket as well is Texas A&M. They were one of the last four teams out from that NCAA tournament bracket that got underway last week, and that was a very good week in the NCAA. A lot of upsets. It was a very great week in college basketball. So let's just kind of talk about what the Bonnies situation is for this upcoming week. Obviously, they're going to be facing off against Virginia, another Power 5 team, another road game. Where do you kind of see this game shaping out?
You know, it's been a remarkable run so far for Bonna, who obviously is, coming off such a difficult situation with the loss to St. Louis in the A-10 quarters. It's really a thing that could have gone either way. Is the season over right then and there, or do they want to play and embrace this opportunity of being in the NIT? It's interesting. They were forthcoming. They voted, as a team. They wanted to continue to play, and if they were going to do it, they were going to commit and try to win the whole thing. And then you see these, inspired wins to go on the road at Colorado and so far away in the elevation, and to win that game, to then come back and beat Oklahoma the other night the way they do. Really looking like the team that we really probably thought, they were going to be all season. But certainly better late than never, and now they're bringing just a ton of momentum and confidence, against another Power 5 school tonight.
Right, and with 2 games down, they have 1 to go, just 1 away from Madison Square Garden. That was the goal beforehand. The season didn't end the way that the Bonnies wanted it to, but this is their chance. It's their last-ditch effort to get somewhere, to accomplish something really important this year. And they've already done a lot. They won at 2 Power 5 schools, and you get a chance to defeat a recent national champion on tonight. It's going to be a big test, but I think they're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, there are times where maybe that confidence is shaky, but after what they've done these last 2 games, and you look at the fact that like a Jaren Holmes and Dominic Welch are going to elevate their games at this time of the year the way they are, they said it themselves. When they're playing like that, they can compete with anybody, and I think that's the team that's going to show up tonight.
So let's talk a little bit about the controversy that's been around this game, like in Virginia, not at St. Bonaventure. Originally, with the way the bracket was set up, it appeared that St. Bonaventure was a 5 seed and Virginia was a 6 seed because they played a seeded team, the 3-seeded Mississippi State. So you take a look at the statement that was released by Will Hopkins, who is a part of the NCAA committee. He said, 1 through 32, they're ranked. But when requested for that list, we did not get to see that list. They said they don't publish that list. So JP, just what's your reaction to everybody in Bonna Nation thinking a home game coming, Virginia's coming to the RC, but now they're going out to play another 5-power team and on the road?
It's a shame that this has taken up so much of the story and kind of taking away from how well they've played these last 2 games, because obviously this is what people are talking about. It's what's happening off the court, and that's unfortunate. And it's not just this instance of not getting the home game when we thought, they're in a position to host. If it's going to follow the principles of a regular bracket here, you think Bonna is the 5, and that must make Virginia the 6. So if they both win, you assume Bonna hosts. I had written that in my preview story for Oklahoma, that if they win the game and Virginia can upset North Texas, they're going to, all of a sudden, an ACC Power, the 2019 national champion, coming to town. And we find out, of course, that it doesn't work that way. And we should have known, I think, when the NIT released the bracket that night and only the top half was seeded, that there could be some funny business going on. They could sort of manipulate things based on who advances and based on where they were going to get, the better gate, more money. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah, I personally wanted a North Texas versus Bonnies matchup because my mom went to St. Bonaventure, my dad, North Texas. that didn't happen, but we're sitting here
Brilliant.
with two teams without seeds by their name, and it's just really funny. I wonder if Texas, let's take Texas A&M. If Texas A&M didn't have a seed by their name, what would the situation be?
Yeah.
It's just really, really strange. That I guess Virginia didn't want to come play at the Riley Center. The NIT didn't want that.
Yeah.
But here we are. The Bonnies are still going to Charlottesville.
Well, and for me, it's not just this one isolated incident of having the home game. I mean, they have gotten a tough task, a tough, draw here at every single turn. Going back to that Selection Sunday, to have to go on the road to Colorado after a day in between, and they're the only team that doesn't get something of a regionally based opening round game. To then be asked to turn right around and go to Oklahoma, they're the only team that had to travel to that extent, and they're the only team out of the 8 left standing that won't have hosted at least one game throughout this thing. I mean, it's been at every turn. We know they're not thrilled about the situation, but they have been very diplomatic about, what, at this point, we're just going to embrace this mentality, roll the ball out, we'll play wherever, we'll play out in the, the parking lot next to the Richter Center if we have to. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, it's the beginning part of that statement saying that the seeds were based on geography, and St. Bonaventure traveled the furthest away out of all the NIT teams. It's just been a little bit weird, but the Bonnies just have to do what's put in front of them, and that's now facing off against another Power 5 team on the road. But speaking of the last Power 5 team that they faced off against, Oklahoma, just a couple nights ago, not favored in that game. No one expects them to go into Norman, Oklahoma and win that game, but they do just that. Who's your player of the game from that amazing St. Bonaventure win?
I mean, it's got to be Jaren Holmes. I mean, and we talked to him after the game. He's obviously been through really a kind of a season-long struggle shooting the ball. He came in shooting just 25% from three-point range, and actually just 18% in conference games. So it's really been this whole season. And to be able to shake all of that off and have the game that he did yesterday, 23 points, one off of a season high. It was emotional for him. I know everybody saw the scream on TV afterward. That was him just letting out, I think, months of frustration. But I think he's the reason they won. They won the game.
Yeah, I don't think you can really point to any other particular player. I'd like to mention Oshun. He had a good night on the boards, cleaning up misses, rebounds, things like that. We want to mention Oshun's efforts, but Jaren Holmes was the player of the game. You go 4 of 4 from 3 in that crucial of a game. I mean, they won by 2 points. They needed every single one of those baskets that Jaren provided, and to step up in a big way when it's really postseason. It's not just a game in the middle of the A10 season or the A10 tournament or the NCAA tournament. It's with the NIT, respectful tournament, but it's not the same. Yeah. But for Jaren to still come out here and give his best and overcome all that, you just can't speak to enough about his character and what he's done and represented this program.
And we say he was the one guy that really made the difference, but I mean, it really was collectively too, and that's what we talk about when we say they looked like the team that we thought they were going to be. I mean, Kyle Lofton does all his scoring in the second half. And then again, if they're going to get Jaren and Dom Welch to be elevating their games at this stage of the season, they are pretty much going to be as good as anybody they play from here on out.
So obviously St. Bonaventure, they're going to be taking on Virginia tonight. Let's talk a little bit about that game. Another road game for St. Bonaventure that had a very tough road up to this point. Doesn't get any easier going up against what you guys mentioned, the 2019 NCAA champion. So what do you think about this game?
Again, it's house money, so to speak, just from the standpoint that it's at their place. They'll probably have a pretty good crowd, maybe 5,000 to 6,000 people. Against one of the best coaches in the country, and Tony Bennett. Virginia plays that pack line at to having national success with it. It's slow pace. They play games in the 60s. They have success that way. So it's going to be interesting to see two teams like that going at it. But again, I think at this point there isn't a challenge that Bonna would back down from.
Right. Virginia, we talked about defense, and that's what they're known for. Number 9 scoring defense in the country, and one of the big names on that defense is Reese Beekman. He averages 2 steals per game on the ACC All-Defensive team. Was second to Mark Williams of Duke for Defensive Player of the Year, so his defensive prowess. But other guys on the team, Kihei Clark was the point guard on the national championship team a couple years ago. He's sticking around, he's capable. So Virginia has guys that can put up some scoring, but they're really going to be defensive oriented. I expect this game to be really slow paced. I mean, Bonas love to play their defense. They love to run their sets too. They're not going to be flustered. Very little fast break points. It's going to be a test of wills for each team.
Yeah, you go back to that Power 5 game when they played at the neutral site against Virginia Tech, and the shooting numbers in that game were atrocious. But now you see these back-to-back games, and I think that's why they're winning these games, is because of their shooting, because you know you're going to get on the defensive end from this team. They've shown it the last 3-4 years under Schmidt and Oshuni inside. Getting the offense going has definitely been huge for St. Bonaventure to be able to get those huge wins. So now with St. Bonaventure, in the last game against Oklahoma, 4 of the 5 starters playing 40 minutes. Quadri Adams doesn't make the trip. Oshun got a 6-minute run where a Kareem Abdul Koulibaly came into the game. Who's the key player you're looking for in St. Bonaventure's side to be able to help St. Bonaventure get over that edge and get a win against yet another Power 5?
No, I think still Kyle Lofton has to be that guy because we talked about him being, the floor general, the facilitator, the leader, and when you're going up against, such a rugged ACC team that can really defend where, points might come at a premium, and you have to be able to have some success in the half court. He's going to be the guy that's engineering, all that kind of thing, and he might be the guy that needs to step up and hit a big shot in a low-scoring game. So for me, that guy's still Lofton.
I'm going to go a different route here. I think that Dominic Welch is going to be a key player because the way I see it, you're going to need to shoot over this pack line defense as well. They're going to keep you from penetrating the gaps and getting into the paint. Dom Welch is a guy who can really succeed around the perimeter. So if the Bonnies are able to hit their shots outside, and that starts with him because he's their best shooter, if they're able to hit shots and draw the defense a little bit more outside, that's going to lead to more opportunities in the lane, opportunities to get to the foul line. But it starts from the outside. I think Dom Welch could have the opportunity for a big game.
It's going to be a battle inside. Obviously, 2 big defenses. It's going to be hard to score. Do you think Oshun needs to have one of those big games like he had against St. Louis during the regular season?
It's going to be interesting with him is their center inside, the foreign kid. He's not much in terms of like scoring production, but this is going to be the first 7-foot player I think Oshun's maybe ever gone up against. They list this kid at 7'1", but I would still probably give him the edge in terms of the athletic component and being able to do the things that he does.
Yeah, and with Oshun, I'm still looking more towards the defensive end. He'll get his opportunities to score inside. He'll get the baby hooks, the putback dunks, but defensively, he's going to need to be that anchor inside to keep Virginia from getting inside and getting easy looks. If he's anchoring down the defense inside, that can give the Bonnies a real advantage.
Bonnies versus Cavaliers tonight at 7 p.m. on ESPN. It's going to be a big one. Coming up after the break, we pick tonight's matchup against Virginia and an in-depth look at the NIT bracket. If the Bonnies win tonight, they're on to the Final Four at Madison Square Garden. More to come. This is BBN.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back to BBN. Before we get into some more analysis of the Bonnies game tonight against Virginia, quick shout out to the Bonnies hockey team making it to the CHF Federation Cup for club hockey teams in Western New York area. They made it down to Pennsylvania area where they made it to the quarterfinals. Nobody thought they could do it. They had a 2 seed in their pool and they came in as the 15 seed, so it took a lot of upsets to be able to get it done, but they did just that. Unfortunately fell to Binghamton last night, but it was a very good run for a Bonnies hockey team, just keeping on that great Bonnies athletics season with rugby winning the title and St. Bonaventure getting that Charleston Classic. So it's been a great year for Bonnies athletics so far. So taking a look, JP, it's time. We've all been waiting for it. JP Story Time, one of our favorite segments. What do you got for us this week?
So I'm trying to think, what can we talk about, and why not talk about the so Bana gets the first NIT win since 1995 against Colorado, snapping a streak of 5 straight losses. I was there, 95, fourth grade, one of my first just truly memorable seasons that ended in such a great way, with actually being able to get the home NIT game that was denied this team. So they play Southern Miss at home that year. David Vanderpool, who was, is, and always will be my favorite Bonnie of all time, now an assistant coach for the Nets, was the guy on that team. Had a great game. I remember Nelson Richards, one of the better three-point shooters in program history, stuck a 3 in the corner that really kind of gave them the separation that they needed. So to be able to see a postseason win in the RC was pretty special. Obviously, we haven't seen that, since. And then they go and lose to Marquette in the second round that year. And it wasn't until this year that they were able to get that postseason win within an actual first. Now they got the UCLA tournament win, but within an actual first round. Technically, this was it.
So the Bonnies not only did they get their revenge on Marquette, they also got an NIT victory this season. So it's been a great season for St. Bonaventure basketball. Let's talk a little bit more about this game tonight against Virginia. If the Bonnies win, who do you think they're taking on next round? Obviously, you got Xavier and their opponent going up against that one.
I don't know who necessarily wins, that other game, but I think just in terms of rooting for the story and the tailor-made storyline, it would be Bana playing Xavier at Madison Square Garden. Schmidt went to the NIT Final Four as an assistant for Xavier, during his time there, and so it would sort of come full circle for him going up against his old team back on that Madison Square Garden stage. So in terms of that story, that would be a great one to tell.
I think Xavier is playing the home game, right?
They'll be playing at home against Vanderbilt. Scottie Pippen Jr. playing for Vanderbilt. He's had a heck of a season, and in the NIT in particular, he's been playing very well.
Yeah, he's really stood out this postseason. I remember back to the SEC tournament against Alabama. He played exceptional, had a good game against Kentucky as well. But I still think Xavier wins that one if they're the home team. Xavier was really close to getting to the NCAA tournament, kind of faltered near the end of the year. But I expect them to get to the Garden, and we'll get to that in our final predictions with the Bonnies, but I do agree with you that the storyline of Schmidt playing with his Bonnies against his former team that he made the NIT with would be a really great storyline for college basketball.
It would be just that. So let's get right into it. Our final predictions for, I guess we could say, the remainder of this little quarterfinal round. The Bonnies will be facing off against Virginia, and we can even mention the Vanderbilt and Xavier. So we're all saying Xavier's going to win that one at home, I believe. Is that what you said, JP?
We'll go with the X.
We'll go with the X.
We'll go with the X.
So then, Bonnies, Virginia, who is taking on Xavier in the next round?
So, the way I look at it, I don't know if there's anything to truly base this on, but the feel that I've gotten is, now initially people were upset that Bana wasn't going to play in the NCAA tournament. But since getting that Colorado win, I think both the team and the fans have embraced this run and this ability that, hey, why not try to win the whole thing, end on this great high note. You're still getting to watch, Bana basketball. And there's something to the fact that, maybe a Colorado isn't as being a Power 5 team that's, been sort of resigned to the NIT. Maybe they're not as up for it as Bana is. Maybe Oklahoma just wasn't quite as up as Bana was for that game. And I could see kind of the same thing happening with Virginia. This is a team that's used to playing for national championships and going to Final Fours every year. How up are they for an NIT title? I don't know if anybody's hungrier for that than Bana right now. And so I'm saying they're gonna do it again tonight.
Final score?
Boy, so I said first one to 60. Honestly, it's going to be right around there. I'll something like 64-60 Bana is what I'd go with.
JP, you said first one to 60. I honestly think this is first one to 40. I don't see a lot of scoring in this game. I think it's going to be an ugly defensive game. I see the Bonnies winning this one, though, 51-47. I agree with what you said about them having a little bit more motivation. I think the win against Colorado made them believe, and then winning at Oklahoma, you're one game away from going to Madison Square Garden. the 3 wins that Schmidt promised. So, if you get these, you go to the Garden, everything's going to work out. They're 1 win away. Why fall short now? I think they're going to come in really motivated. I expect big games from all the 5 seniors. That doesn't mean all of them are going to score 20 points, but I think they're all going to contribute. I think Dom is going to have a good scoring game. I expect him to hit some 3-point shots against this Virginia defense. I'll go with the Bonnies 51-47 to advance to Madison Square Garden and play Xavier.
I think I just go back to after the first game against Colorado. Kyle Lofton in his post-game interview said, we had the team vote. We decided we were going to play, and now that we're in it, we want to win it. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They beat Colorado. They beat Oklahoma. Now they're going to try to beat Virginia. Then if they win that one, they're going to go up against another Power 5, and then potentially another Power 5 in the bottom part of the bracket. So it's just an uphill battle for this team. They kind of took in that underdog role and just ran with it. And I think they're going to keep on doing that. I agree with both of you. Very low scoring game. But I do think St. Bonaventure makes a few more shots than Virginia does. Virginia coming off that overtime game against North Texas. So it's going to be 2 very tired teams. Obviously, they've played a lot of games. St. Bonaventure has players who play a lot of minutes in a lot of games that they've had to play. And they went from Norman, Oklahoma to Charlottesville, Virginia. So they've been traveling a bunch as well. But I do think St. Bonaventure can pull this one out. I kind of in the middle of you two, first to 60, first to 40. I'll go first to 50. I'll say 52 St. Bonaventure, and Virginia gets 47. It's going to be a very close game, but I do think St. Bonaventure pulls it out. And I think we'll finish things off. Jaren Holmes, I think, is going to be the most important player in this game. You go back to the Charleston Classic, the games that they won against those big teams. In my opinion, he was one of their better players, making all those 3-pointers, driving to the basket. He looked like a dominant force on the court. Middle of the season, a little bit of struggle here and there, couldn't find his shot quite yet. Comes into these Power 5 games. I don't think they win if he doesn't score those 24 points against Oklahoma in that game, shooting 4-4 from deep. Nobody expected it. The commentators in that game were going, I don't know what they're doing, 25% from 3, and he's making all these. It was very surprising to them. St. Bonaventure fans were loving it. They got the win. If Jaren Holmes can get above that 20-point threshold, I think there's no chance this team loses, and I believe they'll be in MSG as well. So, guys, I think that's all we got for today's show. Hopefully, when we're talking next Tuesday, we'll be talking about a preview of the NIT Final Four, where the Bonnies will be facing off against Xavier if our experts here are correct. That's all we got for today. My thanks to the Olean Times-Herald's JP Butler and SBU-TV sports reporter Anthony Goss. I'm Ryan Boland saying so long, and we'll see you next week.